Well, I need my information. So I'm not gonna do it on I'm not gonna do my live. I'm not gonna put my show on Twitter X today, so I'm just gonna do that. But welcome everyone to Dynasty the Podcast Show. I am your host, Ira Thomas Bush the Fourth. Um it's a great day. I've been pretty busy, I've been pretty active today. I won't call it busy, I would just call it active. I just want to say thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for listening. I think me being here in Washington D.C. and I tell you I could be anywhere, everywhere. I'm on the East Coast, so I could be in another city in 2 hours, 3 hours. So you never know. But the me being here right now is helping what my assignment is right now, and that is basically I don't call it exposing. I don't try to break down people. People do things and then they have to reap the consequences behind doing those things. You're not once you become of age and as a full grown adult, you have to take responsibility for what you have done in your life completely. Nobody can fix something that you've done, unless you ask and they want to help. I went down today like I do every day. I got up early. Um, and I just know I just knew today was gonna be a productive day. So I got to go attend the hearing on education and health, and I think I might have found an ally that at the tippy top of this thing we call United States of America. At the end of her here, I left when she left. Let's put it like that. So I'm gonna get into that. I'm pretty excited about the stuff that she was mentioning, even though I think her budget's still under budgeted, and I think we got to start with the baby steps because it's a lot. But once you put all the money onto one state, like her state's going to be good. It's a similar thing with I think my state of Florida was in the middle of picking between wanting to have COVID concentration sites and tearing down our basketball courts for that, and letting everybody that has built up stuff over the years, you know, continue to do what they do. And I think we have chose the athletic side of continue to train and prepare, you know, whether you're in the soldier, whether you're a athlete. I think we chose that side because 9 times 10, they were still going to let the college students be the college students, but they were trying to take out youth programs that had to do after school, that had to do with sports preparation as far as youth. Besides, college level, of course, recreation, little league football teams, basketball teams, AAU type of stuff. And that's basically what my mindset, overall is to stay back, to get back in my lane completely without all these people, the naysayers and these people from different states seeming like, I've been up here a while. So it had to be people from different states and haters that were in my state that didn't do what I did. They want to be mad because they chose a different path and they wasn't as great as I was in my path. So in my assignment. So, but I got great news today. I was able to have a meeting today, as far as, me. I think it's going to help me financially in the near future, not just like and it's going to help me in the community. More so say it's going to put me back in position in a different state or whatnot. So I'm crossing my fingers that things work out. I try to speak positive light into great opportunities. If this will be a great opportunity, I don't know if people are finessing or whatnot. Hopefully they don't take it as that and they don't take it as a sign. And I'm definitely not dissing them because the meeting went great today that I had after I left the Senate Hall and the Senate office, the buildings. And and I'm gonna break down what I'm gonna give you some facts of what was discussed today at those meetings. Um, people want to get notoriety for stuff. I don't know. I'm trying my best to, mind my business, but they opened the facilities for me, so I'm not gonna complain too slick about that. Sorry about that interruption. I do. Look, I go down there. Hey, they be on camera. I walk right in, right past. They have. They call people like they call people like me. I'm a. it's not really a disruption. I pay my taxes like everybody else, but what they're going to stop doing is the fraud and the trying to speak. Especially people that are Caucasian or whatever culture they're from, trying to speak for my family in any term of any fashion. And I'm not saying it in a negative way if you're doing it for a good purpose, but you can't be naive enough to know that you're putting other people in danger when you try to speak for my grandfather or my grandmother or my mother or my great aunts. You can't possibly not be able to know that you got to check in properly before you do these things. And if you do them, you got to check in right away. So that's the main thing that's going on. And things going to get corrected. I have not seen nobody come up to me and speak to me the way they should. What has went on, the treason that has went on with my grandfather, and unfortunately, I know my mom's father was that strong, so something actually probably went on. But I'm not a complainer. What I want people to do is show the real proper respect when I walk in the building, because I don't come in there with ill intentions. I don't care how much whoever think they have money right now paid you to not like me. Get your mind right. Get your assignments right. You know what I'm saying? Your assignment is not to hate on somebody like me. I think I have. I'm not feeling the title when I say this. I know for a fact that I did my job as a service person of helping the youth or helping the community already. And I'm going to get back into it. My child is still a youth. My nieces and nephews are still young. There's no going back on what I picked to do. And this is, and then another thing is to motivationally speak and to guide and to put people in position when I get the position I need to be to put people in position. And that's just what it's gonna be. I have a real assignment coming up in 10 days that I'm gonna take in pride. It's right up my alleyway. Hopefully the people that ask me to do it don't renege or don't try to control the situation or how I teach or speak. I'm not gonna use profane words. Definitely not gonna crisscross and curse your life. So everything I said when I help these youngins, it's gonna be very vital to them, especially if that's what they're asking for. That's what the type of teaching they need right now. So I'm excited about that. Now let's go right into what we discussed. I got a little bit of information yesterday. I went into I want to start off just by because I walked in so late on the education, and Senator Warnock was the one speaking when I walked in, and so I was already halfway late. But it's okay. How they system, I come in there every day. I come in there very disciplined, and I haven't missed a day really since I've been here, since I've been in Washington D.C. The first place I went into when I walked to Washington D.C. is the same place I go into every day. It was the number one spot to be. You know what I'm saying? When you're in Washington D.C., this is the number one spot to be, especially if you're in the political world like I am. And I'm full throttle in it. I speak on it every day. I'm not getting false information. I'm giving out my opinion. I'm giving out facts that they already live, that they want to live out. But I kind of decipher to what the people need to hear, not what they want to blindfold and say. So what I caught from Senator Warnock, and it was actually nicely done because this is how debate is. The basic of debate was taught. You get your turn to speak, I get my turn to speak. You get your 2 minutes to speak, I get my 2 minutes to speak. Some of the senators I didn't catch their name. I just caught what they said. So it's going to be an unknown quote from a senator and some of the stuff that I speak on. So sorry you didn't get the press. Some of y'all didn't even need to be up there talking. Some of y'all are so arrogant in your defense of how you were raised, and you actually sitting up. And then there's some of these are actually females. Their family come from like slave owners, some of them. And then after slave owner, they come from picking niggas. When they used to call picking niggas, they used to literally burn a nigga on the tree, chop them down and eat the flesh sometimes. You know what I'm saying? They used to do that stuff for real. But we gotta historically state that fact. So, I'm not hiding behind these people. I'm just going up here to do my assignment. And I don't mind working with people. And if you take offense to me telling factual things that y'all just uncovering in 2026, that y'all was practicing in the 80s and the 90s and still trying to practice in 2026, you can't get mad. It's not even a bad thing. There's other people from different countries here. The UN workers are not doing their assignment to get people out of their position that not supposed to be there or has flunked the test of doing things properly. So, we're going to have to figure it out another way. It's going to be with the youth. It's going to be with people my age group that's willing to stand up and be somebody and not be just some tap dancing. Oh, I don't know what to call them it right now because we're still moving and living in this age. So, we're just gonna have to figure it out. Now let's get right to it. Well, Senator Warnock, basically his message from what I caught, because I came in the middle, he wants the BCU to have the same opportunity as the primary universities, which is these big universities. The Ivy League is pretty much private, so they got them a fund. They're not gonna tell you how much they getting, how much they earning every time. They're gonna fudge their numbers. That's what they good at. I ain't mad at them, but hopefully they'll figure out in some way in their heart to share with the HBCUs because we kind of operate. Well, I'm not gonna say we until I graduate, but I do have several family members that graduated from HBCUs in this generation, and one right under me. So shout out to them. It's not an easy thing to do. It's finish college. I talk about my story all the time, but I'm gonna finish college. I don't know when. I definitely think I'm gonna do it before 40 years old. But it's like they be putting me to sleep in there. And I'm not making this up. People want people want to get the information in my brain before I could put it out or before I could let it manifest into monetarily or greatness for my children or my nieces and nephew or my daughter or my mother. They want to capitalize before I do, but it doesn't never going to work out in your favor. And I speak on that all the time. Now let's go right into it. Like I was saying, he wants the same type of treatment and funding for the HBCUs. He doesn't want it to be so lopsided the way it is. Or I talk about the scenarios where they put less than $100 billion up for HBCUs, all HBCUs, and then they give each university, major university or university that's have tradition or whatever they want to call it, that's predominantly a white university. They give them each a $1 billion. You know what I'm saying? They want the HBCUs to break up crumbs, and that's basically what he came up there and spoke on. And they are talking about having um, that's basically what I got from his, what I caught from his spew. Maybe not be bar for bar, but I pretty much the first beginning was what he said out his mouth. But it's basically how I'm breaking it down for what he want. And I missed the beginning, so he could have spoken on other acts and bills that he want passed or he wants to be implemented all the time because they forget they write these bills and acts and don't put it to use. Now, this is from an unknown. I didn't catch who was saying this. He's like, Meekly and Scott want to introduce a bill so they can. Meekly and Scott want to introduce a bill. These are senators want to introduce a bill to reverse opioid addiction. They want to. They got a pill. They got a pill that was going to reverse that supposedly stops opioid addiction, which is some of the slowest, most naive thing to do. If you make a pill that's supposed to help you with opioid addiction, all you need to do is stop doing opioids. This is a pill form, this is liquid form, this is heroin, this is a street drug level. If you're talking about the old school way, I think that's some of the most arrogant stuff that they do. They try to big. This is what I wrote for his opinion. Um, you know, making a new. The only way I can see them, the reason why they're making a pill to stop something is because they want to continue to make money off. The same person that created that addiction is trying to make money off something to stop the addiction. And I spoke on this already, so they're shooting themselves in the foot again when they come to speak when they speak in front of me, and this was me being in the building. Yeah, I ain't letting that slide. I don't want no pill like that. That might get introduced to my child as a headache pill, or a menstrual cycle pill, and all these weirdo things that they like to do to cover up their weirdo. And I already talked to my children about these things. I don't want them taking nothing in them, nothing that's not natural. And that's what they got to understand. They have already killed many of natural science. People that have studied in natural science, they don't like the fact that it's stuff that's naturally grown that could stop all this stuff that they talking about, even the opioid addiction, which the number one thing is to stop using pills and opioids or liquid form of it or the heroin form of it. You just gotta stop. That's the number one thing. Then you gotta nurse yourself back to being hydrated. Then you gotta nurse yourself back to eating the proper things. Then you gotta nurse yourself to clean your mouth out properly and be mindful of the things that you was around, the dirt, the filth that you start accumulating when you don't take care of your body and yourself and your interior yourself. And this is more important than all that stuff that y'all trying to make money off of. You trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, and that's improper, So we're gonna have to figure something else out. Now, for Senator King, I remember your name. You came in there and you said, "Stand strong, fall Prevention Act." Stand Strong Fall Prevention Act. And basically they, this they are that's the one that they said out their mouth. They are renaming grant. This is basically what I caught on because they have so much stuff that's already in place for education before that they made that bill, that big, they call it the big beautiful bill, or some people call it the big ugly bill. And basically that was just code for they are renaming grants that are already in place that someone Caucasian could take the place of a black person or Spanish or native who didn't even get credit for that probably, or Asian, whoever came in and did these bills behind the scenes that didn't get all the credit when the Constitution was first formed. And these people were already did stuff to make sure the education was important, and team sports and organization was important. They're trying to rename these things after these bills. They're trying to make name of the bill and then put a Caucasian name, European name behind it. You got to remember that the Constitution and stuff was formed between two different European countries, which was now we call Republic and Democrat. They all work together. The British versus the London people, and then it's natives, and then it was Black Africans descent, and then it was slaves involved as well. And all this stuff is taught in history. I don't feel like giving out that history, but I try to remind people that that was the basis of it, and there's a lot going on. Now they are renaming that's how low level and how peanut mind these people are, how small minded thinking they are. Instead of just giving credit for where it's due, or instead of putting every last piece of political or the Constitution or the acts, all of them need to just be put on the board. This need to be a year process. We ain't gonna shut nothing down. We not gonna be no executive orders. We not gonna put no more acts up. We too developed in this country to be adding stuff on. This is something somebody already have done. So what you got to do is put everything up there. Now this category go with this category. This category go with this category. And then you go category by category. Does this make sense? No. Does this make sense? Yes. No. 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 And once you get to the point of being the same category, you got to literally name it this. The only thing you're going to do after you name it that one thing in that category is reference all them stupid acts. You're going to get rid of them, but when it's an issue in the court and the thing, they not going off those 5 million acts off of one thing because you got your cousin want to name his act this and your cousin and auntie want to name it this act, and it's the same act. But you want to be like, no, it's my credit. No, it's my credit. I've been in debate, so I understand the basis of it. But before we even was going in it, I didn't even get to the point of where we was competing too heavy. I only, what I'm saying, I ain't do too much of that. I understood the process in real life between giving out my full game and being the real deal. So I just sat back and paid attention. You know what I'm saying? So now it's a real ball game. Now you finna see how y'all done crashed out. How somebody who wanted to be the president of the Senate gonna become the secretary and the whole ass person that he always was. Cause I didn't give out nothing, but now I'm finna give it out to you right now. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to stick up with it. You got to be able to stand on something. You ain't got no real drive. You ain't really got no real vision. You can't stand next. You can't even stand in the paint with me. So, that's what it's gonna come down to when I get to this level that I'm at right now. And it's not even I'm not even being nice with it. But when it comes to me dominating you or whoever you are out there, whatever imaginary ghost is out there, anybody who jeopardizes my livelihood or my child's livelihood, it's not gonna be no joke. Spiritual warfare, you're not gonna win. It's not even gonna be close. Okay. Now, moving on. Role Readiness Act. This was by Senator Collins. Now this goes into more of the science, the health. I spoke on this earlier this week. The way he was talking, he said it was lack of doctors. This is one of the things he said out of his mouth. Now, when he said that, that made me just shut him completely down. The reason why there's lack of doctors is because there's a gap of knowledgeable and people that actually understand the body. They have killed real people that cure cancer and other diseases. They will cut corners and force failed science theories and theses down your neck, down your throat. So they want their accuracy to pass something as an actual cure or something that could cure or help. It's like in the range of like 30% instead of it's supposed to be like I think when we was doing it was like 90+% when I was learning about science and what could be a theory, what could be a law, and all this stuff. And they gonna change the rules because they got all these people that don't know you supposed that got a degree based off knowing somebody. They didn't get a degree off of studying and doing assignments. They got a degree because they know their buddies. Their buddy was already a judge, and their parents were already had millions of dollars or something from oil or some stupid stuff that they think in their brain. That's how much they don't know already. That's why they getting caught up. Now the fact that the youth has been now the fact that the youth has come to force and they've been coming out the last few days, I've seen it. I'm happy about that because I want y'all to have this information that I'm giving you so you could leave no. I don't want you to leave nothing when you go to college. I don't want you to. I don't. And make sure you document. Just the way you turn your paper in. Like I said earlier this week. Go ahead and put some information out there. Don't give all the credit to them colleges. Them professors don't be knowing nothing. They be learning on the fly half of them. So, and I've been in the college world in the 2022, 23, 24, 25. I've been in these facilities. So I know they ain't stepping like they want. They think they was gonna be stepping when they cheated to get to that position. But we ain't cheating. We ain't taking no. It's too many of y'all to cut corners. Use each other, help each other. Be mindful of the deceit of the people that's trying to follow behind their grandparents and mothers and great grandparents that cheated and cut corners. Be mindful of those people. There's people out here that's giving out real game. Go study, go travel different countries that don't have nothing technology wise that you have, but are just as smart and just as wisdom filled and strong, and they just got to have an opportunity. Don't be afraid to go out there on a leaf because I'm still gonna go out there, and I ain't even like I tell you all the time. I ain't even done. The way the system that they tried to do for me to not raise minds. I gotta be patient. I gotta be a little bit more patient. I'm not in your generation. So yeah, we're gonna continue. Let's continue. I don't want to get off topic. And that's just a little quick brief. They didn't speak more than 2 to 4 minutes most times. So, some people went a little longer. Senator Johnson. Now this guy right here, I don't seen him a few times since I've been coming into these what you call. I ain't hating on him because his voice don't seem like he's coming from a place of evilness, but his words and his lack of information when he speaks is what makes me question him having this position as senator. Not saying he ain't got people around him or people who can do the job, because that's how it seems. That's why I feel like that's where his confidence come from. But still, I say this: he is like so. His basis is so like that broad type of person that when you were popular in high school and popular in college and the women like you didn't disrespect because your mom, you got that energy like that confidence, like my grandma said I was cool, my mom said I was cool, I didn't disrespect the women that I had. That's how his energy is. So I'm not mad at you being a person in position, you know what I'm saying? But what I will say is you better come up there a little bit more prepared because I'm gonna chew you up right here. The bill, the right to try, and I ain't saying you is exempt because I don't know if you in on paperwork. You know they just dropped a lot of paperwork out the sky, so I ain't saying you exempt. You know people make up a story because they jealous of you too. You never know. But the bill, the right to try, the most important part of the bill is the name, and that was literally the bill. And he was just basically saying, he was talking in circles about just, to me that was cool for they could test anyone, you know what I'm saying, except Caucasian men. And then and this is the part that he's not, when you have all these good people, when you don't climb your ranks and then they finally let you talk, and he's like, this is why they be sacrificing. That's also cool for me. Like that bill is like cool that they gonna sacrifice their own white women, and this is what I be trying to say. Like he might not get that because he was already good with it. Like his little section is good. Everybody else now, you gotta be mindful. You get what I'm saying? So this, and then I'm not playing about, I'm not playing about the black women in my family. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I'm speaking on these things. Then it was the right to treat, the rights to treat code, which was, they basically like, they could snatch anybody up and test on them. Like that's what the bill was, because there didn't was no detail behind it. So just be mindful how you say these things and how it's coming off, because you have all these ducks around you and these scared women that been seeing so much craziness that they got to go with to get along to stay in their position and to stay in good graces with all these people that call themselves chairman and head of house or head of this and whatever they calling it right now, because they actually are hiding behind the Iran war, because there's so much turmoil that goes on with what they actually have done in the years leading up to them being in that position. So let's continue. And this is the last thing I'm gonna speak on. Then I'm gonna head out for the day, because it's gonna be more to come tomorrow. And actually, it's not gonna be the last thing. I think I spoke on what I was talking about yesterday. I didn't get to speak on it. But Senator Fisher was the only one. She came through at the end, and I had to leave after, because I was so motivated by her speaking. You know what I'm saying? I'm in Washington. If I leave anywhere and want to live anyways, wherever her state is and wherever her cities are that she's located, while she's still alive and well and moving, and she's strong enough to be the senator still, I'm gonna move to her state, because she talked correct. She talked about the Senator Child Care Modification Act. And like I said, this act I'm finna study, I'm finna dissect, I'm finna implement it in Florida, and I'm finna implement it where I'm staying in Washington, DC. And this is what she said it was about 8.8 billion funding several things. And I agree with specifically the aftercare programs and nonprofit that create several outcomes, and the child care that remains undermined. This is the stuff she was talking about. Basically, the child care is being undermined instead of being an essential, and that's what the main thing is. That was why she placed that act that she wants. She spoke on some other stuff, but I don't like to overtalk people that have some sense. And she's very quick. She was very direct, and it was very, very powerful for me. And she was a white woman, so I'm not mad at none of this stuff that was spoken out her mouth. She's the person that could hold the door for it and still enjoy her fruits of her labor, because she's from a whole different age than me. So I'm not mad at what you have already gained. So I just hope when I approach you and I see you in the hallways, hopefully you have a little bit, she had somebody behind her, underling. I like the way that she was moving. She had one person behind her and she walked out when she walked out. And I like that movement, because people don't need a lot of help when you're the one that's speaking. You just need somebody to confirm that you said that day, and I appreciate that. So Senator Fisher, you got a star for me today. You got, remember in elementary, there's the green, there's the yellow, and there's the red. She was on the complete green 100% side today. So I appreciate what you spoke on. Hopefully they get behind you when it comes to giving out funds. That funding should be, when it comes to all 50 states, that funding should be probably times 10, should be more on the 80 billion side, so you could trickle it out and you be the lead in that. And I'm not mad at that. Hopefully Senator Moody of Florida or Senator Scott, whoever is in Florida, which I got a lot of stuff in Florida that I need to get back to doing. Y'all can communicate with her because both of y'all, one of y'all slow and the other one's still young, and she's not up to date when it comes to debating and to breaking down stuff. And y'all get the picture of who is who because I already heard both of them talk. One wants to divide and conquer and cry about some Save America Act, which is the stupidest shit ever. Cause we in America, what the hell we saving? We already here. You don't got the people to do it because you're trying to pick the wrong people to do the job. You clearly are not good at this. Man, I ain't finna go into. I already said what I said. Let me continue to go now. To close it out. Close it out. Yesterday was a character that I didn't even get to stay in there 10, 20 minutes. And I watched some of it on TV. Oh, actually I watched it on I was in the hearing, but I was on the in the office instead of the hearing because I got there late. They tried to make me late to all these feelings, so but they can't stop the inevitable. You ever see what that is when you watch Endgame? No, just like I ain't know what you call it. I ain't stealing energy. I don't need to steal nothing. That's something that's mine, so something that I've gained, So it's pretty funny how I could quote it, but anyways, yesterday I went to it was a small business hearing, and I was paying attention to that. Now let me read this stuff. This is the problem I had. I'm reading the notes that I took. When the real business money of veterinarian dog. So whatever the small business funding they was doing, they took a lot of money. You remember they was giving out those business loans during COVID, and then a lot of money was taken off the board because or still had to be used. They used it for COVID shots and COVID centers and emergency resources or whatever they was making up lies. And the problem is they were using it. They would put after that ended, they put all this money into like veterinarian and calling people dogs and trying to switch people into animals and characters and practicing on real medicine like marijuana plants. And they was messing up too much stuff because people have got. I said when people were rich, they became wealthy, and when people was in a modest state, they became rich, and they got jealous and they started manipulating the wrong medicine, and that was marijuana. And then they want to combine marijuana with veterinarian money and try to shift change people and all this goofy ass shit they've been learning on Game of Thrones and shit. So I don't know what they got going on, but that's what the conversation sounded like when they was talking. And there was a lot of laughter and joking around, which we was talking about business, which I don't understand why they was not taking business serious, which goes back to what I was saying, the business that they was supposed to be talking about is what Senator Warren was talking about today when it came to funding and when it came to the office education the education stuff I was speaking on. So that's why I spoke on this last, because what y'all was talking about yesterday in that business meeting and hearing was irrelevant. And y'all need to figure it out. Y'all need to stop doing that. Y'all gotta get a clue, pay attention better. I don't know what to tell you, but we're gonna end it on that. That was just a little glimpse of what I did. I ain't gonna go into details. I like what was said. I'm gonna have a positive high note. I'm gonna correct my wording. I'm gonna have a positive and a outstanding day. From here on out, I'm gonna go back up there, catch the 2:30 hearing. I'm gonna be back in tomorrow. It's gonna be even better because I'm gonna catch a lot of hearings, and I'm gonna put a lot of information into y'all. And I might save it for the state of the elite press state of the union for Saturday, or I might do a show, or I might split it in half. You never know. I might have two state of the unions, and it's gonna be everything I speak on is gonna be great. It's gonna be very powerful. So we're gonna continue. And shout out to I forgot to add today the meeting. Somebody, like I said, I got something going on in 10 days in church. I'm happy about that. And then somebody is going to look into something for me. Hopefully I get a chance, opportunity to continue to mentor and help a community. So, and if I could get that position, I'm gonna be super happy about it, So, and that, like I said, people don't know, man. When people extend a tree, a branch for me, I go 110. I go a little bit more percentage than you think that you're going for me. It's all about getting opportunity, and I've been around a lot of people, and they'll tell you the same thing. So, thank y'all for listening. This is the Dynasty the Podcast Show. I am your host, Ira Thomas, Mr. Ford, and I will see y'all. And y'all have a great day.